Welcome to this week's edition of Confessions of a Fitness Professional. I'm your Fit Pro, Andra Anderson, and this week's confession is detailing how I choose what and where to teach fitness classes. So, I've been teaching 15 years, group fitness for 15 years. And the conversation or the confession at that time is wildly different than where it is now. And even honestly, year to year, it's a different conversation. I was just chatting about this yesterday with another yoga instructor, fitness professional, and sort of going into if we only knew when, if we only knew then what we know now, and just how different the approach would be. But at the same time, I wouldn't have what I have now or be where I am now without that past self. So when I first got into teaching, it was definitely more about how much can I teach, how often can I teach, how many classes can I pack into a day, how can I be the instructor for this type of format. And at that time, I first started with Zumba Fitness, which I don't even teach anymore. And it was sort of like a game of how many classes and the conversations with other fitness professionals. And if you're listening to this, I'm using air quotes because I very quickly learned the difference between an instructor and a professional. Very distinct difference. An instructor is somebody who's just there to teach the class. A professional is somebody who's building a career out of it and is there to help change people's lives. Very different things. You can have success being both, I imagine. So when I first started, the conversation with other fitness instructors was, well, how many people are coming to your classes? Ooh, 5? I'm so sorry that you're a failure. Or how many classes are you? There was this one professional, I can't even call them a professional, this one instructor that every time I saw them, that was the question of, how many classes are you teaching right now? I'm doing 12. And I'm like, cool. Good for you. But at when you have conversations like that with people that you think are professionals in your field, you have these inward conversations happening with yourself of, well, am I doing the right things? Am I doing enough? Can I be doing more? And that was the mantra in my head, more, more, more. To the point where I was teaching Zumba every day, sometimes twice a day. And if I'm being honest, sometimes 3 times a day. And when I was, 15 years ago, when I was 23, yeah, that was fun. And that was my whole thing at that time was like, this is my happy hour. And, I would choose to teach fitness over doing literally anything else. And I was just consuming as much as I could and trying to fill spaces as much as I could. And I had this desire to teach actually where I'm sitting right now at this location. And it was so highly coveted in my mind because it was the place where I first took Zumba classes and I really wanted to teach there. And they wouldn't give me the time slot that I wanted. And I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast before, but just like a quick recap, my fitness has come a long way. And my body composition at the time when I first started teaching did not match what the organization believed should be the teacher of the classes, if that makes sense. There were other kind of skinnier, blonder people that were teaching, and they were offered the coveted spots first, even though arguably they weren't very good at it. That's neither here nor there, it's over. But it taught me to be more resilient, it taught me to have a thicker skin, and it encouraged me to go out and find another facility to teach. And had I just been handed that position, I'm curious to think where I would be now. So that was really the first thing that encouraged me to go out and look. So at that time, how did I choose when and where to teach? I wanted to do everything. I said yes to everything. It was never a question of like, should I? It was yes. You want me? Yep. You want me to come there? You want me to come there? I'll do that. But then over time, I had worked at number of facilities and a number of locations, and started to develop a style and an interest for myself of what I liked, what I didn't like, and quickly realized that I didn't like working for organizations. I had a hard time being a member of the team because so often it was just like I was kind of overlooked. Surprisingly, I'm not the loudest member of a team, so I didn't really speak up for myself enough to like take and get the most coveted times and classes and positions. So I often just watched other people like do what I wanted to do, and sometimes I felt like their skill level wasn't as good, but they were just vocal. And that was sort of hard to watch. And then I worked for an organization that was like, okay, every single member of the team, regardless of whether you teach one class or 20 classes, has to help with housekeeping duties, like checking people in, creating new accounts, cleaning the front area, making sure the merchandise looks good, cleaning the room, and cleaning the bathroom. So we all had to take turns. But then I very quickly realized that that wasn't the case for everybody. There were some diva instructors that never did that. And sometimes I would be the one that would teach after them. So I would come into a room that was a mess and a bathroom that was a mess. So not only was I cleaning up after, I was cleaning before. And I said something to the owner and they were like, oh yeah, no, that person doesn't have to do those things. And I said, well, I thought every member of the team had to contribute. I'm like, well, but when you're really talented, you don't have to. So I was like, okay, so am I not really talented? I was filling my classes. People really liked what I was doing. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So that was sort of the end of that relationship. Anyway, so that sort of just swept it out. But prior to the pandemic, how I chose where and when to teach, after sort of settling the more mantra, where I was really figuring out, okay, I like having a couple of evening classes. I love teaching a weekend morning class. I want to go somewhere that will offer me more money. So I really, for a while, I was sort of led by the money. So the places that were offering me more money, I was teaching, or if they weren't offering me enough, I would do a double header. So I'd say, okay, cool, I'll teach I got off of work at 4:30. So I would teach a 4:45 class and a 5:30 class. So I'd do a 30-minute class followed by an hour class. And that to me was enough money to justify my being there versus just teaching the one class. So I did that a lot. Convenience was a big thing too. I liked teaching here in this location because at the time I could walk from where I lived or ride my bike, and that was super convenient. I didn't have a car right away, so that was essential. But then when I did get a car, I looked to go farther away and really develop my skills as an instructor. So I was looking for a place to really come into my own as an instructor, a place to find a new community of people. That was a huge thing. But then fast forward to now, how I choose where and when to teach. I sort of take a look at what classes people are coming to, and I try to offer at least one of those. I kind of figure out, like, what do I like? What am I having fun teaching? Right now I'm loving teaching my high fitness class. I have a good community of people coming to those classes, and the facility where I teach will offer me a base pay, so that people that are part of this organization can come to those classes. So that's a really nice community. I'm comfortable teaching here. That's another piece of it. It's relatively easy for me to teach here. So comfort and availability are huge. I started teaching at my house, and that's been really awesome to have that. It's an outdoor space, so it's kind of like reliant on the weather. And so that's been a little bit tricky, but it's really cool to sort of just roll out. And I am a little bit neurotic, so I do like leaf blow because it's outside, and I make sure the space is like ready to go. And I've really upped my equipment game. I have some great equipment now, so that's been really fun. I would ideally be able to teach to all the certifications that I'm currently holding. So I like having a bar class. So even if that's just one event a month like I do at the coffee shop, that's enough for me, or I can do some online groups and that's enough to kind of settle that. Yoga is another certification I paid to continue to hold and do my continuing education credits. I'm teaching really one class a week right now. I enjoy that, and I will do like online group challenges. So for me, that's sort of where I am right now. I want to be able to utilize the certifications that I have, but then also teach where it's accessible and convenient to me and where it's fun. If it's not fun, like it's just no amount of money would make it worth it. Right now, I really also value sessions. And by that, I mean, I do so much better when I have a start and an end date for something. Having to show up, I was teaching a Saturday morning class at 9 a.m. for years and years, and it just felt like it was never going to end. And it was fun, and it was a great group, and we were packed. Before COVID, we packed the house. So the energy was great, it was fun, it was awesome, but I like operating in seasons, so where I can have like a 6-week class here, or this where I'm teaching right now operates under semesters. So there's an opportunity to sort of stop, evaluate, see, are these days working? Is this time working? Is this format working? And sort of mix it up from there. So I love that it flows from August through December, and I get a little bit of a break time as well where the facility is just not open and I can't teach. And I like having that where it's not like, well, it's not me that's closing it, the facility is closed, so I genuinely can't teach. So it's this sort of like guaranteed built-in break, and that to me makes it more appealing for me. I also love having set seasonal events where it happens 1, 2, 3 times, and it's done until next year. And it's this anticipation, and you can really pack the classes, and it's really fun, and you don't get burnt out doing it. I do goat yoga, and I think we did like 5 or 6 classes one year, and that was just too much. Like none of us liked it at that point. So I did 2. I think we did 2 this year. Maybe I did 3 because we did a special event. That was plenty. That was perfect. I have a location where I teach in the fall, and I'm doing 3 classes there, period. It's done. I enjoy that. I also enjoy where I can have a little bit of flexibility. So, it's when you work for some organizations and some facilities, you have to find coverage for your class. It's not your class, it's the facility's class that you happen to teach. And as such, you have to find coverage if you can't be there. The assumption is that you are there all the time. Like you're a robot, you're always there. You never have moments where you're traveling or have other obligations that you can't be there. So because it's the facilities class, you have to find somebody to fill that space. And if you don't, you will likely lose that time slot and somebody else will be able to pick it up. That's like annoying to me. So I love that even though I'm teaching for a facility here, it's still my class. And if I can't make it, we just don't have class that week. And we just pick back up at the next week. And I feel zero guilt for doing that because we're here most of the time, majority of the time, like 98.5% of the time. There's very rare times that I'm not able to teach. And if I'm not, I give lots of notice. So I like that aspect. I like being able to kind of work for myself and manage my own schedule versus being told what to teach and when to teach and how to teach it. I like being able to be in charge of the music. That's a big one. There are facilities I've worked at that were very specific on what kinds of music you were not allowed to use, and I just don't vibe with that. I like having, again, the flexibility to sort of schedule events here and there as I'd like to. I can say no to things if it just doesn't vibe with what I want to do. I really like doing more corporate classes where I can work with that particular organization and offer what will work best for their people. And I like doing online group challenges. Those are really fun to put together and coordinate, and it gives me that creative outlet. And of course, I love a theme class. So anytime that we can have a theme, we just had a little baby sprinkle, I don't want to call it a sprinkle, kind of like an acknowledgement for one of our one of our community members is having a baby and has just been like front row diva for the longest time. So it was just fun to sort of acknowledge her and the baby, and we all wore pink, and that was really fun. I think I'm gonna do like an Olympic themed class, which will be fun, and give out like little medals to everybody for random things. And I look forward to the fall to have kind of fall themed, October, Halloween. I usually will do like a holiday class as well. So I look forward to having those kinds of events and having the freedom and flexibility to host those kinds of things, and not feel like I have to run it by somebody, not feel like I'm being under a microscope or judged for it. And most importantly, I don't have to clean the facility or the bathroom. And to me, that is really everything. Having the class at home, of course I do have to clean, but that's my home and it's different. Like, it feels different. Like I'm directly getting the value out of that and inviting people to come into that space. But having to clean a bathroom and facility that's not your own, it's not like I'm not above it. Obviously I did it, and I would, I would do it if it's not my space. It's like a matter of respect, but it's just not my ideal situation. I want to teach. I want to come in, I want to offer the class, I want to support the community, I want to make people feel good, and I don't want to worry about like the 45 minutes after class cleaning up after the space. The cool thing about this space here is I just sort of say, hey, it's looking a little crazy, like the mirror's a little funky, can somebody come in? And they have a housekeeping staff that is managing this building. So that's a really cool thing to have. So that's sort of how I pick when and where. In terms of timing, I have another full-time job, so I have to, teach classes around that. But for the most part, most of my clients also have gigs that they have to work around. So the scheduling usually just works. So that's not a problem, but that's sort of how I pick when and where. So that's this week's confession. If you are a fitness professional, I would love to know your methodology, how you choose when and where. Also, if you decide to cancel classes, that's sort of why I work on sessions, because it hasn't really happened for a long time. But if a class just isn't performing well, then it's like, okay, we'll cut that, we'll try something else. When we discovered the goat yoga classes, like toward the end of the season, the numbers were dwindling. We were like, okay, early in the season and fewer classes, and that worked out great this year. So being able to quickly make those decisions and have full authority over it is everything to me. I love that about being a fitness professional. And it's so cool because you can really, if that scares you, like having to pick and promote, you can work for a gym and they'll do all those things for you. You just show up and teach your class. There are options like that. So there really is a little bit of something for everyone in this profession. But for me, I found I really like being my own boss. I like, vibing with certain facilities, and I don't like cleaning bathrooms that aren't mine. So that's it. That's our confession for the week. Again, if you're a fitness professional, share what you do or what you're like working through right now when it comes to figuring out your classes. And little PSA, stop doing polls. Stop. Offer what you want to offer when you would like to offer it, and people will show up. They will. They just will. That's our confession for the week. Thank you so much, and I'll see you for next time. Bye.